Hi Kingship families, welcome to our cake baking tutorial. As you can see in your box, you should have had a lovely thing of frosting and a cake mix. So the only thing that you should need is a bowl, some mixers, an oven, and you can get ready to start baking. Of course, the first thing we're going to want to do is preheat our ovens as instructed on the box and gather our ingredients so that we can get mixing and get started. I'm going to be doing a slight variation of our recipe today, and you might want to do this too if you're missing any ingredients or you want to put your own little flourish. That's always fun, of course. Whatever helps your heart celebrate the birth of Jesus, as we are doing today, making him a birthday cake. Or perhaps you're making this cake for a neighbor or a friend that you want to celebrate with. That's great. One way that I'm celebrating today is I'm going to be making a few substitutions, some because I don't have the exact ingredients, which you might not since you weren't expecting to bake a cake today, and some because I want to put a little extra flourish on there. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is take our cake mix and pour that mix into our bowl like so. And then we're going to start adding our other ingredients. So the box calls for oil. But I don't have any oil today, and if you don't have any oil, or maybe you have one oil but not everyone in your family can eat that oil or something, you can try this variation. I'm going to be instead using jet puffed marshmallow cream, which is a great substitution for oil because when you look at the surface, it's really shiny like oil, and that's probably means it works the same way, right? And look at that lovely consistency. So I'm going to mix that on in. And make sure it folds, the cake mix folds into that marshmallow like that, really good. Just like a really nice swan origami. Fold it all in there. And the next thing that the recipe calls for is eggs, but I figure not everyone can eat eggs, right? So I've got some magical dinosaur bubblegum eggs here, which are totally allergen friendly. And I'm going to be, for these ones, chicken eggs you would want to crack and put in. These ones I'm just going to put straight on in. And I'll show this egg right here. You can see it's a real egg-like substitution. The next thing that the recipe calls for is, of course, water. Now, I have water, but I figured it would probably be a lot creamier and a more delicious cake with a nice little nutty undertone, or oaty undertone if you prefer oats, that I'm going to add some almond milk instead. So here's that going in. And it's really important when you are baking that you measure out all of your ingredients to be totally exact, because if you try to guesstimate when you're baking, it usually really doesn't turn out well because texture is really important. But when you're cooking, it usually doesn't matter as much. So I'm just going to pretend I'm cooking, and this is going to work out really well. So I'm mixing all that together. I got all my basic ingredients, and it looks just beautiful. Lovely cake. This is going to turn out so delicious. I cannot wait to share it with my family when I make this on Christmas. Hope you guys are having fun at home too, getting ready to bake your cake. Next, I'm going to be adding a couple extra ingredients for my flourish. I'm hoping to give this to my neighbors or my friends to help them celebrate Christmas. And I thought it would be nice of me to help them freshen their breath up a little bit after all of those crazy Christmas breakfasts by adding some gum in. So you can see I'm crushing the gum, not chewed yet. I'm just going to be putting in the flakes, and it'll bake on into the rest of the cake and give it that nice minty aftertaste for them so that their breath doesn't smell horrible from the dinosaur eggs. And that point, once it's all mixed in, kind of like chocolate chips, the last thing to do is to put it in the oven to bake. And now, like I said, preheat your ovens ahead of time. So at this point, hopefully your oven is ready. I don't have an oven here at the Kingship building. So instead, I have successfully substituted all of the non-edible raw ingredients for edible ones. So this is totally safe to eat, see? Num, 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 num. Oh, and it's so good too. Once it's out of the oven, I have just added one more extra special ingredients for decor. So since this is all good and ready to eat, I'm gonna go ahead and put in my frosting now, which is blue for some reason. So I'm gonna take that blue frosting and just put that right on top of the cake, which is gonna look so good, and frost it right in there. If you are baking your cake at home, which I suggest you do if you use raw ingredients, make sure that the cake is nice and cooled off before you put the icing on, unless you want it to be thinner and runny. And the last cherry on top of this delicious cake is I'm going to be doing a little extra decor just to give it some extra sparkle. This will really stand out against the blue, but I'm just going to be crushing some Cheeto Puffs and just kind of like riddling that on top of the cake to make it look nice and yummy and give it a little extra salty finish on there. So once you've got that done and you've sprinkled that last one on, you don't need to use the whole bag, but you could also toss a couple of just puffs in there if you want. Get that nice and sprinkled in with a little extra flourish, and then you're ready to share your cake.